So Lily turned 6 in August, and this was in 21, I believe. She turned 6. We went for her physical, and just like we always do, her sister was a little older, and so they did the scoliosis check, and then the doctor said, "Oh, why don't we check her while she's here?" Normally I think they probably wouldn't have been if she were alone. They wouldn't have looked.
Right.
So immediately the pediatrician said, "You need to get her looked at. This doesn't look right." And so my wife had scoliosis. It didn't even register. And I don't know why in our minds, well, maybe the kids would have it. We just thought they'll check them when the time comes. So she had just turned 6. So we went to a specialist, an orthopedic specialist in the city, in New York City. And immediately, it was one of those things where you walk in, and I don't know, I didn't know what to expect. We left very discouraged, though, not because he wasn't good at what he was doing. He absolutely is.
Right.
But you sort of walk in the door and he looks at her back and they do the scans and she was at 34 degrees. And, you get the whole story. Within 45 minutes, it's like, here's your healthy kid to, she needs to be in a brace 21 hours a day. You get the whole line of things. And for my wife who had scoliosis, that I think was a little shocking because she had gone through years ago. The type of brace she had wasn't the most comfortable. It was just, she had all these memories of that and thinking, now my 6-year-old's going to have to do this, right?
Right.
So we left there a little hopeless, and it was sort of, we'll see you every 6 months until she has to have surgery probably. So we got home and I started thinking, I don't love that this was the only option that we were given, right? Maybe it is the only option, but I don't love that. So I started searching online and immediately you came up and I started reading about what you do and was captivated by.
So the doctor was actually discussing surgery with you at that point?
Sort of, we were asking a lot of questions, well, what happens if, because that's what, I'm a
Yeah.
journalist, so I ask a lot of, I'm like, well, what happens if, this doesn't get better? So he didn't immediately jump there, but there wasn't a lot of hope, in that first meeting of,
Yeah.
we asked questions like, how often does this get corrected? How often do you see that? And it just didn't feel like it was going to be a scenario where she had this positive. It was like, here, she gets to be in a brace until she's 15, which that part would be fine if there was some other hope on the other end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just felt very close, like there wasn't going to be. So yeah, that came up in the context of asking those questions of what happens at 15 if she's...
The truth is that I think you wound up in a very conservative surgeon, because a curve of that size in a child that age is, many surgeons will just expect that they're going to have to operate that kid because it's a very progressive condition when you have such a young child. It's just so much growth to go.
I'm going to tell you the most, and this is not, again, it's not indicative because surgeons do surgery. That's what they do, right? But the frustration point of finding out that, wow, there are other things that happen was that nobody told us that, right? So had we not gone searching for it, yeah, there was no conversation. So we felt very much kind of left in the dark in terms of, here you go, come back, get your brace and take it from there. And so, yeah, there was no conversation about anything that we could have done outside of the typical interventions they do with the bracing and, surgery. And to your point, the 34 degrees, they did sound the alarm. And I think they saw our faces probably as they were saying it, if she got to 40 degrees, that was going to be, that's usually when they start to talk about, the surgery, I believe, from what they said. So
What's your experience has been like coming here? Because I think that's like, she's had a beautiful response to care, and I feel like it's a powerful story to tell people what you've been through since you started coming here.
yeah, well, it started actually before we even came. We talked with you over the phone. You reviewed her scans, and you gave. I mean, I was really encouraged by the conversation. That you took the time, to call us and go over it and say, hey, here are the options. Here's what we could do. Come in. And we did that. And I mean, immediately we felt at peace that there was an option that we knew, as we were starting it, we thought, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? But we really looked at all of the reviews of other people who had gone to you and felt very positive about it. So it was just kind of a breath of fresh air, to feel like, okay, somebody's actually listening beyond telling us, here are the few things you can do. And then once she started doing the exercises and, working with you, it was pretty incredible to just see even the way she moved. Her body was a little tighter before as a result of the scoliosis. So before we even had the first scan, we felt like this seems to be working. And then once we started seeing with the x-rays what was happening, I mean, it's only been a positive progression. We started at 34 degrees, then I think we were at 23, and then we were at 18, then we might have gone to 19, then we were down to like 14, and the last x-ray was 9.95 or something. It was under 10 degrees, which when we went to the surgeon to get that x-ray, yeah, he seemed pretty shocked by that. He seemed pretty surprised. And I was asking questions again, right? How often does this happen? And his exact wording was, not very often. And so again, it brought me back to how many people do not know about this amazing option that they have to try something different that could actually really work for them. When she talks with you and comes in, when she sees those x-rays, and even as a young kid, watching your spine literally straighten out, she knows that there's a direct tie between what she's doing and that result. And so she understands that. So it's pretty powerful.
You have continued to go back to the orthopedic surgeon through this whole cycle, and I believe all the x-rays, all the post x-rays were taken by the orthopedic surgeon,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, they've all been 24 hours or more outside of the brace beforehand. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of this would be working without the exercises and the treatment that you're offering. I mean, that has been the key to this. Yeah, I would say if you find yourself in a similar situation, you get a diagnosis of scoliosis for your child, no matter what age, or even for yourself, that you don't just take that first piece of advice. Of course, take it, listen to it, put it into account, but I would say you want to make sure you come to Dr. Strauss, you call Dr. Strauss, you have him look, give you his perspective and opinion, because it has been life-changing, life-altering for us to have done that. Had we not done that, if you don't do that, you're not going to hear what options are possibly out there, and you never know. We had a 34-degree curve that we saw go down right now to just under 10 degrees, and so we've seen amazing progress, and it wouldn't have been possible without Dr. Strauss.